One thing that I get regularly asked to do is to help remediate, turn around, or improve the performance of IT operations within a business. I remember this one time I got a phone call from this gentleman, and basically the phone call went something like this. Zeeshan, we need you to help bring some control and stop the noise which is causing all these issues within our business and is basically concerning a lot of senior directors within the company. And where that phone call didn't really give me a lot of context of what the actual issues was. It helped give me an idea of what was the frustration and the pain being felt by the people who were actually living and breathing and working on the IT operations within that particular business. So I've been doing this work for some time, and I've had some good level of success within it. And over the course of these X amount of years I've been doing it, I have built up some techniques, learned some lessons which have aided me, helped things turn around successfully. So I thought, in case somebody else might be going along the same journey, so why not share some of the lessons which I have learned, share some of the things which worked for me, and share some of my own techniques in the aim that somebody else might benefit from them who's trying to do the same thing. So today's video is about giving you an idea, an example of a particular transformation, a remediation program I carried out on a customer. And that customer was going through a transformation of their IT operations to a new target operating model, and that transformation didn't really give them the results, the benefits that they were looking for, and there were a lot of challenges with that. So I was called in to help remediate that transformation, because it was not only causing pain on an operational perspective, but if not fixed quickly, it was going to help cost the business in millions of pounds of revenue not realized. So I'm going to share the steps which I took and how they helped me within that transformation journey. And just to kind of let you know, because of customer confidentiality, I won't be able to share the exact details, but I'll focus more upon the key things, the key concepts, and the key processes which work for me, in the hope that you can adapt them to your own particular project or work you are doing. So I didn't really have a lot of context on what had gone wrong. I had an idea of the pain they were feeling, but I didn't really know the full facts. So as somebody who is gone into a new working environment, to a new business, who doesn't really understand the full context of how things are going, what services are meant to be doing, the first thing which I did was to start speaking to the right people, to build up the knowledge of the business, so I'm able to make the right decisions and make the right recommendations for my customer. So with regards to that, I spoke with the IT leadership. I spoke with the business stakeholders, and the business stakeholders basically were able to tell me what experience they were feeling from the technology versus what they should be getting or what they were promised. I spoke with the operational delivery teams, which were impacted by the lack of performance. I then also looked at the contract documents, the service level agreements, and the financials. And the reason I did that was these documents helped me validate and verify what my interviews with various people had given me. And it also helped me understand and get an idea of the financial side of things, because at the end of the day, IT is given an X amount of money to provision some services and deliver some results. Often I have found is that either the financials have not been set up correctly, which means the services have not been provisioned adequately, which means the delivery is impacted. So numbers tell a story which gives you a lot more context into how or what the thinking was when this whole service was set up. I did a gap analysis which allowed me to get an idea of what the current state is and what it should look like. So that was the first step, which was to gather the information and understand what the context of the whole problem is. The second step, once I had gathered the information, was to share my findings with my key stakeholders, with my engagement points. And the idea was to bring them on the journey. And the first step is to share with them the findings, share with them what I have found as part of my root cause, which is causing the problem, what are the gaps which need to be filled, which will allow them to be in a state which would give them the results that they want. So by sharing that root cause analysis, by sharing my findings with the key engagement points which I had, not only brought them closer to what I was feeling or what I was sharing, but also helped establish that element of trust, the open communication, and also helped validate the findings which I had given her. So that is the second step. The third step, after you have identified the gaps, is to actually develop that plan which will turn the current state into the future or the state it was meant to be ideally. Now, in this particular example, I had 10 to 12 different service lines which were impacted. Now, I come from a technical background, but I by no means am an expert on every single technology that particular customer was using. So what I do in this situation is that I work with the key subject matter experts from each technology or service stream. I give them the final vision of what good looks like, of what the end journey is, of what our final target is. And then I work with them and sort of rely upon them to give me the key steps which they need to fix their own particular service line, since they are the experts within their own area. It not only helps establish a relationship of trust with the key teams, but the key teams feel empowered that the change that they're bringing about is engaged or triggered by them, and I'm here to help them. So the key teams develop the plan. I helped then set the various milestones of where the checkpoints would be and what the final state would look like, which is basically when we hit these particular KPIs over an X amount of time after so many weeks or months, we would have said that we would basically have completed our journey and the service would be as the customer expects it. So that's the third part, is to develop a plan, which I did. Now, again, don't micromanage, let the teams develop the plan. You can focus upon other things, which is communication and risk, which I'll talk in my next steps. But once you develop the plan, share that plan out with relevant stakeholders, which I did. And again, as you can see, one of the key themes throughout what I'm talking today is communication, and that is to keep the relevant people updated on what I am doing. See, sometimes we don't have any news to tell. Sometimes we are concerned that if we share bad news, it will go down in a negative manner or reflect personally upon us. None of that is true. I like to overshare because oversharing can't be bad. Undersharing is not good. Because sometimes, my engagement points were the leadership within the IT organization. What I was aware of was that particular leadership was then engaging with the leadership on the business side. And if I wasn't giving my engagement points, which were the CIOs and IT leaders within the IT business, then they had nothing to tell the actual business counterparts. They had no information to say, yes, we are working on improving strategy, we are improving this particular operation, it will take us 3 months or 6 months, whatever. They've got information. So I like to keep communication a key part of what I do. And I create different channels, and I will discuss them in the next step. So, but for this part, develop a plan and share that plan with the relevant people so they get an idea of what are the different streams of work you're working with. They got an idea who were the key people who were working with me, so I could get their resource commitments. If I needed any financial commitments, I highlighted that over there as well. Also, it gave my engagement points an idea how much time this whole thing was going to take, because at one point this person said, because the actual plan took roughly 5 months to deliver, and this person wasn't expecting it would take that long. But by sharing that plan, by showing them the dependency of the different steps of different processes, it helped them realize and understand the challenges in a lot more detail. Hence, sharing is very good. Now, the next step is that once you've developed a plan, you share it out, is to look at your communication strategy. Because now I've taken a step back, I don't micromanage. All I've done is that I have got key checkpoints with the teams, and I had 2 key checkpoints every week where the teams would come and give me a status update or give me an idea what the challenges were. Now, if the challenges were quite big, they would have come up anytime during the working hours, pick up the phone, tell me. They were not kind of restricted to those 2 checkpoints. The 2 checkpoints for regular status updates when things are going right. So, and the idea I did that was that because, I've got 12 different service lines to improve, so I need to manage and control the process of taking them through the journey of improvement. So 2 checkpoints, which would give me are we on track? Do we have got any challenges? What are those challenges which I needed to fix if there were any risks or issues or any other problem that would have come across? I then had a communication strategy or communication plan, which meant I had a combination of conference calls, emails, and visual updates scheduled over there. When I say visual updates, what I mean by that is that conference call is quite good, in-person updates excellent, but I had people who were spread across different locations. So how do you update them? I don't believe that a lot of people read Word documents. I don't, right? I'm going to admit that. I hate reading these documents because I get so many of them. What I do like is that if I get an email and within that body of that email, I've got a quick visual summary of where things are. If they tell me if they're on track or not, or if they're not on track, what's being done to fix them. It helps me keep on board with everything. I do attach the actual Word document or the plan, which I did in Excel, as an attachment, because if somebody wants more detail, it's all over there, or they can reach out to me through my scheduled phone calls of in-person updates. But the visual updates make sure that the people who are very busy, who may not have time to read the updates, they can visually glance at it, and it can tell them whether everything is okay or they need to be more involved, or they have any questions, they can come and ask you. So I made sure that my communication was tailored in such a way that it tried to cater for a wider audience. It was giving them quick summaries, larger updates, detailed updates. So basically I was capturing everybody within my own communication plan. I wasn't leaving it to people to react and come and ask me. I was being proactive, and that's what I would suggest if you're following the same steps as I am. The next thing is to look at risks and issues. And I said earlier that things will not go to plan at times. And I had risks and issues that come up. Some of those risks were that initial assumptions which were made at the point of setting up services were wrong. They had done some trend analysis on capacity or availability which were wrong, which means the provisioning of infrastructure was not right, which required a lot more investments, which required some more other discussions around financial elements. Things came along which were not within the scope of the actual work. So it was now my job to make sure that I was highlighting those risks and issues with the key stakeholders, along with suggesting maybe we can explore these avenues to address those risks and issues. Some had to be addressed as part of the program which I was running. Some were going to be addressed after I had finished the program at another avenue as part of a different project. The idea was that when I came across those risks and issues, right, it basically showed and validated some points that the original scope had not been right. So it was me highlighting and fixing the original design of the work, and it actually showed more value of the work which I was doing, because I wasn't just fixing the current problems, I was actually demonstrating that I was highlighting the long-standing issues which, if we're not impacting today, they could be impacting 6 or 12 months down the line. So it's basically to show to the customer that not only are you managing the current things, but you're basically looking out for the longer term. So you're highlighting those things and making recommendations. Now, whether they do it or not is a different thing. You can't have any control over that, but you should take the responsibility to make those recommendations and highlight any risks and issues which you are coming across. The final thing is to make sure that I close the programs, because scope creep can happen. So again, the original plan which I developed with the team, I had set the KPIs which would tell me that the teams and the services which I was improving had achieved a consistently improved service. And again, the key part here is consistency. I've seen so many times that people will or a team will say, yeah, we have hit the mark, but they can't sustain that level of performance. And that's one of the issues. So I closed things down when we had attained successful completion of the work, we had achieved the KPIs, but they were sustainable within the variance limits in a set amount of time, which meant that my customer was happy that the improvements are not short-lived, they are going to be sustainable over a good period of time, which also for me personally, I think it's a bit of a selfish thing, because when I do the work and I go away, I want my work to speak of as my positive legacy, so people remember me in a more positive terms after I have left that. So again, it's also a personal thing, not just a business or a customer engagement thing, but I want to leave things in a sustainably good term. So again, it's my personal reputation, right? So that's why I also focus very heavily upon closing things down only when they have achieved a good performance which is sustainable over a reasonable period of time. Now, once things are closed down, all that happens, I just want to highlight that where these are the key steps. Communication is the most important thing. When I say communication, it's about giving updates, it's about giving good news, it's about giving bad news, it's about negotiation, because people will not agree with you. It's about communicating with different cultures, because my experience was I had to work with teams across different countries. So there was a variety of different things and a wide area that the communication looks at. And that was very, very key for me. By the way, when we talk about cross-cultural communications, I've made a video which looks at authority and decision making when you're working with teams across different cultures. I'll link to that, you might find it useful. But coming back, communication is one of the biggest things, and sometimes we just don't do it right. You need to get your communication front and center as part of any program you undertake, especially if you're like me, you have joined an organization for a short period of time to help remediate, fix a problem, and that communication allows you to build those relationships, establish trust, and bring them on the journey with you. So I think communication is very, very key to any success, to the sort of work which I normally do. So I hope you found this video useful. I'll come back next week with another video. In the meanwhile, if you think there's anything I can help you with your IT operational needs, maybe setting up an operating model or discussing some KPIs or performance improvements, I don't know, anything linked with that, please do feel free to reach out to me, and hope you have a nice week till next time when I bring another video around IT operational side of things.